بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, we begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to continue in our lessons in the commentary of Aqaid and Nasafiyyah, and we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with the understanding and make it easy upon us, and bless us with iman and taqwa, and guide us our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam yawm al-qiyamah, ameen ya rabbal alameen. In our lesson, as per last week, we were still speaking about the contingency of the universe. So basically, what we have mentioned so far is the saying of Al-Imam Nasafi, where he mentioned that the universe is made up of two things, two elements. Number one is substance, and the other one is accident. So in Arabic, we call it al-a'yan and al-a'rad. This is what is mentioned by the text of Al-Imam Nasafi. And Al-Imam Taftazani, as what we have discussed, goes deeper to speak about the different factions of these terminologies, where he mentioned al-a'yan is divided into jawhar and jawhar and jism. So jawhar is the particulars, whereas jism is the compounded form of the jawhar. So we gave an example of the meaning of a body and the meaning of the atom. So a body comprises of atom, and then comes the a'rad, which we term it as the accidents, the accidents. And so we mentioned the difference between substance and accident is that substance, they stand on their own, whereas accident, they subsist within substances, and they do not stand on their own. So it is impossible that an accident can be in existence without a substance. So this is the connection between substance and accident. Then the author goes on to speak about the evidences on the contingency of both substances and accidents. So this is where we are now. And in the last week, we have gone into speaking about the examples of accidents. Al-Imam Taftazani gave many examples. So let us look at it again fast. Just a quick one. We do not want to waste too many time speaking over again and again. Time is precious. So I will just run through what we covered last week. So last week when he speak about the accidents, so this is what we mentioned. So he said this is the example. He gave the example of a tu'um. Tu'um is a taste. So he mentioned there are 9 of it, and sweetness and saltiness and all these types of taste. So this is an example of an accident. This is an example of an accident. So we gave the example of sugar. Sugar is a substance, but the taste of sweetness of the sugar is an accident now. And likewise is smell, rawa'ih, types of smell. So nice smell, bad smell, and this is a kind of accident. Then he mentioned وأنواعها كثيرة. There are many types of smells. وليست لها أسماء مخصوصة. And there are many smells and do not have any names ascribed to it, because there are too many. There are too many smells. Even when we speak about flowers, we speak about all these mixtures of perfumes and so on. Sometimes you cannot define what is the name that is called for a particular smell. But the reality is that these are accidents, and these are things that doesn't stand on its own. It subsists within substances, and whether it is liquid or it is any solid, or it is gas or wind or air. And then he mentioned, he said فإذا تكرر أن العالم أعيان وأعراض والأعيان أجسام وجواهر. So he mentioned that al-a'yan. Now we will start our lesson here, inshallah. This is going into our first lesson. I believe we stopped just above, right? We were speaking about rawa'ih last week. So now let us look at this. Of course, translation I won't use any this translation. We use any the American any translation, but just for the sake of the Arabic for the Arabic and the text. The author any mentioned here, he said فإذا تكرر أن العالم أعيان وأعراض, and when it is established, when we have understood that the universe is made up of أعيان yani substances, أعراض any accidents, والأعيان أجسام وجواهر, and substances and they are made up of bodies and atoms, made up of bodies and atoms. فنقول, then we come into the conclusion, الكل حادث, all of these are contingent beings. Yani when we speak about a'yan, substances are contingencies, hadith. Likewise when it comes to accidents, al-a'rad, likewise it is also contingent. So both a'yan and a'rad, they are contingencies. What are the evidence behind their contingencies? This is what he is going to speak about, and this is going to be our class tonight. What are the evidences if we say that substances are contingent beings? Likewise when it comes to accidents, what is the evidence? So this is where Al-Imam Tatazani will speak about the evidences based on logical argumentation, as what we will see later on. So he start off by speaking about accident. We find our scholars scholars of Kalam, usually they begin speaking about accidents before substances. Because why? Because no one will disagree that accidents are contingencies. No one will disagree. For many reasons. He mentioned so many of these reasons. So he began by speaking about the accident. So he said, أَمَّا الْأَعْرَادُ فَبَضْعها بالمشاهدة. When it comes to accidents, how do you know that an accident is a contingent thing? Yani it is not eternal. So how do we know this? By observation. Al-mushahada. He said bil-mushahada. So he gave an example. What does it mean bil-mushahada? He said كالحركة بعد السكون. كالحركة بعد السكون. And again we use this example. Now what you call it, this bottle is sukun. Sukun meaning it doesn't move, correct? Not? It doesn't move. Then we move it, and it becomes what you call it, still again. So we will understand that movement is contingent, because initially there was no movement, then there is movement, then there is no movement. So that movement it comes after non-movement. So this is a kind of observation that we can easily conclude that it is a contingent being. It is a contingent being. So basically the meaning of contingent meaning, it exists after non-existence. So initially there was no movement, and then movement came. So movement is something that came about. So something that initially was not in existence, then it came into existence. Now this itself is contingent. And this can be understood by observation. So this is what the author gave the example. كالحركة بعد السكون. We can also look at this translation. I think this is easy, no issue. He said, as for the Arad, then some of them are known to observation like movement after stillness, and light after darkness. So for example, when we are in the morning, there is light, and when we are at night time, there is darkness. So where does this darkness come? So initially there was no darkness, then darkness came. So initially darkness was not in existence, then it came again, and this is the thing, something that came after non-existence. So initially it was non-existence, then it came into existence. So anything that comes from non-existence into existence, this is no doubt, and we say it is a contingent being. It is a contingency. It cannot be eternal, because something that is eternal cannot change. Something that is eternal and it cannot change, and we cannot ascribe any contingency to an eternal being. So whenever it is preceded by non-existence, by this kind of observation, and we can easily conclude that it is an accident, and it is hadith, yani a contingent being. Then he gave an example, والسواد بعد البياض, something that comes, what you call it, the blackness, that comes after whiteness. وبعضها بالدليل. So number one, and he said بالمشاهدة, mushahada is by observation. And number two, the way we can establish that accidents are contingencies, it is any by analogical any reasoning. By analogical any reasoning. After this, we will read any the other any translation. I will just explain first, inshallah. Once we have understood, then we go back into the translation, so that those who are following, and you have the PDF, at least it can be a source of where you can return to it when you need it. So he mentioned وبعضها بالدليل. وبعضها بالدليل. Some of it can be established by analogical reasoning. وهو طريان العدم كما في أضداد ذلك. So number one, it is about the what you call it, the coming of non-existence. So anything that comes into existence after non-existence is contingency. So this is a kind of reasoning or a principle that can be applied to anything. This is the definition. Anything that comes from non-existence is contingent. وهو طريان العدم كما في أضداد ذلك. So whenever it accepts any non-existence, whenever something accepts non-existence, it is contingent. Whenever something accepts any non-existence, it is any contingent. فَإِنَّ الْقِدَمَ, so he said that eternity, yani al-qidam, pre-eternality, ينافي العدم. Something that is pre-eternality cannot accept non-existence. So this is a thing we have to memorize. We might want to write this down. فَإِنَّ الْقِدَمَ, this is a very important statement. فَإِنَّ الْقِدَمَ يُنَافِي الْعَدَمِ. Yani pre-eternality cannot accept non-existence. Pre-eternality and he cannot accept any non-existence. لِأَنَّ الْقَدِيمَ, so he gave an explanation, and he said لِأَنَّ الْقَدِيمَ, something that is pre-eternal, قديم, إِنْ كَانَ وَاجِبًا لِذَاتِهِ فظاهرا. Yani when we speak about something that is qadim, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is qadim. Yani in the Islamic perspective, when we use the word qadim, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is qadim. So we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pre-eternal. Other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are contingencies. Why? Because other than Allah accepts non-existence. Other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are brought into existence. So they are preceded by non-existence. So anything that accepts any non-existence are contingencies. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept non-existence. Allah is wajibul wujud. Again, when we speak last time, when we cover Kharida Bahiyya, when we cover Sanusiyya, when we define al-wajib aqli, we say ma la yaqbalu al-adam. What you call it, something that does not accept non-existence. So this is wajib aqli. So when you say wajibul wujud, the existence does not accept non-existence. So when we use the word qadim in the Islamic perspective and in aqidah, it can only refer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says لِأَنَّ الْقَدِيمَ إِنْ كَانَ وَاجِبًا لِذَاتِهِ فظاهر. So it is understood that when we say something that is qadim, something that is pre-eternal, it means that its existence is necessary. That it is not in need of something else that brings its existence. Its existence is a necessary form of existence. So we do not say that something else brought it into existence, because it itself cannot accept any non-existence. So it is in existence and it cannot accept non-existence. So this is what we meant by wajibul wujud. Wajibul wujud. And then the author mentioned the viewpoint of the philosophers. So those who are following, just take note. Now the author is going to speak about the viewpoint of the philosophers. So let me give an introduction to this, to what he is saying, so that we know where he is coming from. For those who have learned, for example, Kharida Bahiyya, we spoke about al-illa wa taba'. The philosophers last time they believe in the concept of al-illa, the concept of the necessary causation. The necessary causation, because they believe, for example, that the universe is eternal. So when they were asked, how can you say that the universe has no beginning, they will say that the universe exists with God. God is eternal, and the universe exists with him. The universe exists necessarily with the eternality of God. So this is again something that is ajib, but people believe in this. So they believe that the universe is pre-eternal. How come the universe is pre-eternal? By illah, by illah, yani by the necessary cause. Since God is eternal, God is pre-eternal, the universe is also pre-eternal by the eternality of God. So it follows. God exists, the universe exists with God. So it is not God that created the universe. This their belief. It is not any God that created the universe, but the universe is in existence with the existence of God. With the existence of God. This kind of understanding, our scholars they term it as al-illah. That is why Al-Imam Ahmad Dardir, and if you look at the Kharida Bahiyya, he said, وَمَنْ قَالَ بِطَبْعِ أَوْ بِعِلَّتِ فَذَاكَ كُفْرٌ عِنْدَ أَهْلِ الْمِلَّةِ. Those who believe in the concept of nature and illah and causation, فَذَاكَ كُفْرٌ. That is a form of disbelief. And because why? Because they believe that God has no effect on the universe. God has no effect on the universe. The universe itself, or nature itself, possess the independent power to function. So without the intervention of divine power. So that is why our scholars mentioned this is a form of disbelief, because these people they believe that something can happen without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without any God. So this is the belief of Allah. So now the author is speaking about this belief of the philosophers. So as for the Muslims, we are clear. We say that the universe is contingent, and everything that is contingent has a beginning, and anything that has a beginning it must have an originator, and the one who brought it into existence, and that one who brought it into existence is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as far as we Muslims are concerned, it is very clear, and it is logical. There is no problem in it, and this is the what you call it argument that we have been speaking about. Then he mentioned pertaining to the belief of the philosophers. He said وإال لازم استناده إليه بطريق الإيجاب. So if people does not believe that the universe is contingent, if they do not believe that the universe is contingent, then how can this universe came into existence? And the belief that this universe is pre-eternal. So he said that the only way that they can assume and make this assumption that the universe is pre-eternal is by the belief that the universe exists by the existence of God. So this is what he's saying. وَإِلَّا لَازِمَ استناده إِلَيْهِ بِطريق الإيجاب. The universe has connection with the existence of God. بِطريق الإيجاب. They exist by the existence of Allah. So they are not created in that sense. They are not created. إِذِ الصادر عن الشيء بالقصد والاختيار يكون حادثا بالضرورة. So the difference between us and them, and he said, الصادر عن الشيء بالقصد والاختيار. When we say that the universe is created, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has willed its creation, Allah has willed its creation. So something that has been willed upon must be contingent. Something that has been willed upon. Meaning, when we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wills that this universe is to be in existence, then He brought the universe into existence. So this universe came into existence by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything that came into existence by the will of the divine, that thing must be contingent. That thing must be contingent. Necessarily. This is what he's saying. إِذِ الصَّادِرْ عَنِ الشَّيْء. the origin of particular thing, due to بالقصد والاختيار, due to a will, divine will, يَكُونُ حَادِثًا بِضَرُورَةٍ. It is confirmed something that is contingent by necessity. وَالْمُسْتَنَدُ إِلَى الْمُوجِبِ الْقَدِيمِ قَدِيمٌ. And the belief of the philosophers that since the universe is in existence with the existence of a pre-eternal God, which they are saying, then that is why the claim that the universe is also pre-eternal. So this is again the viewpoint of the philosophers. So the philosophers do not accept that the universe is contingent, and this is the difference between the scholars, our Islamic scholars, and the philosophers. Our scholars are saying that the universe is contingent. The philosophers are saying that the universe is not contingent. Of course, nowadays, it is scientifically proven that the universe is contingent. Even people who are atheists are saying this. There can be a person who says that the universe is pre-eternal. Certainly, there is no rational evidence about this. But last time, Greek philosophers, some of the Greek philosophers, they believe this is just an assumption. So our scholars, they deal with this issue. Although nowadays, mashallah, we don't have any problems in understanding this thing. So he mentioned the viewpoint of the philosophers, ضرورة امتناع تخلف المعلول عن العلة التامة. So this is the concept of illah. Why do they believe that the universe is pre-eternal? Because they believe the universe exists with the pre-eternal and with the pre-eternality of God. So since God is pre-eternal, the universe is also pre-eternal. This is the concept of illah. This is the concept of necessary causation. It exists with the existence. It exists with the existence of God. This is an idea. This is an idea belief. So you can refer back to what we mentioned in Khaqidah Bahiyya, even in Sanusiyyah also we spoke about the difference between the Muslims and the philosophers with regard to this issue. So let us just read the commentary of the American commentary. So just now we read from here, some of the accidents are known by observation, as motion following rest, light following darkness, blackness following whiteness, and others are known by proof, such as the occurrence of non-existence as seen from its contraries. For eternity is inconsistent with non-existence, meaning it cannot accept any non-existence. That's what we mentioned, because if the eternal is necessarily existence in itself, then it is clear that eternity is inconsistent with non-existence. So basically, when we say something that is eternal, it cannot accept non-existence. Otherwise, eternity must be ascribed to the eternal simply by way of affirmation, since that which is proceeds from a thing by purpose and choice is of necessity originated. Something that is based on purpose and choice or will, determined by the will of the divine, it must be originated, contingent. But an effect which is joined to a necessary eternal cause is self eternal, because it is impossible for a necessary effect to lag behind its cause, and this is what the philosophers are saying, which it is not of importance to us because we have understood its falsehood. So now when we go on, he mentioned as for substances, al-a'yan. So now when he is going to speak about al-a'yan. So let us look at the Arabic text. The author mentioned, وَأَمَّا الْأَعْيَانِ فَلِأَنَّهَا لَا تَخْلُو عَنِ الْحَوَادِثِ. Basically, what he's saying now, he is going to speak about the proof, the evidence that substances are contingent. Substances are contingencies. What is the evidences to say that substances are contingent? So he said, وَأَمَّا الْأَعْيَانِ. As for substances, فَلِأَنَّهَا لَا تَخْلُو عَنِ الْحَوَادِثِ. This itself is enough actually. In in Aqidah Sanusiyyah, if you look at Sanusiyyah, even you look at Barahin, for example, the text Barahin, the argument that substances are contingencies, the argument is this: since substances cannot be separated from accident, and accident are contingencies, then substances must be contingent. Again, and I repeat, if we have established that accidents are contingencies, and accident subsists within substances, then substances must be contingent. Because it is impossible that substances are pre-eternal when the accidents that subsist within it is contingent. It is impossible. So you cannot have something of some substance that is pre-eternal, but with the accident that is any contingent. This is any impossible, because we cannot separate substance any from accident. So if accident are contingencies, then the substances any must also be contingent. So this is the first argument. So he said, wa ammal a'yan fali annaha la takhlu anil hawadis. And so those who are having the book, write this down. Al hawadis here are, what he meant by al hawadis is الاعراض, yani the accidents. So maybe just write this down. What is meant by hawadis is accidents. So he's saying that you cannot find any substance that do not have accidents. So for example, our bodies, our bodies is made up of substances and accident. I always give this example, that my body is a substance, the color of my skin is an accident, my height is an accident, my size is an accident, my movement is an accident, my smell is an accident. All these things that we have, mentioned. Can we separate our accidents from our bodies? Question: can we separate our accident from? Impossible, correct or not? How can you separate your color? How can you separate your color from your bodies? How can you separate your movements from your bodies? How can you separate your height from your body? Can you separate your height? Can you separate your size? It cannot be separated, correct or not? It must subsist. Whenever we say a body must have height, must have the size, must have the color, and so on and so forth. So when we say that substances cannot be separated from accidents, and accidents are proven to be contingencies, then substances are contingencies. This is basically what he is saying. He says, وَكُلُّ مَا لَا يَخْلُو عَنِ الْحَوَادِثِ فَهُوَ حَادِثٌ. And everything that cannot be separated from the accidents, and those accidents are contingencies, then it must be contingent. Then it must be contingent. And then he goes on to speak about this. So Al-Imam Taftazani, mashallah, he's going to speak about some other form of evidences. So he is going to speak about logical reasoning after this. This is what we study in mantiq. We have the premises of an argument. So just to recap, in mantiq, whenever we speak about an argument, there must be premises, correct or not? There must be premises, and there must be a conclusion. So we have the first premise, we have the second premise, and then we have the conclusion. So now he is going to argue that substances are contingencies. This is what he is going to speak about. And he is going to use logical reasoning. So he is going to speak about the first premise. So he said, وَأَمَّا الْمُقَدِّمَةُ الْأُولَى. He said that the first premise of this argument to prove that substances are contingencies, he said, لِأَنَّهَا لَا تَخْلُو عَنِ الْحَرَكَةِ وَالسُّكُونِ. And the first premise, he said that substances cannot be void from movement and stillness. So let me give an example of this bottle. Again, this bottle is a substance. So substance take up space. So it's either moving or not moving. So if I'm moving it, this is moving, correct? It's moving, meaning it is not in stillness. But if it is in stillness, meaning it is not moving. So it is either moving or not moving. It is either moving or not moving. So if that is the case, فَهُمَا حَادِثًا, then that is a proof that this bottle is a contingent being. Why? Because movement itself is a contingent. Stillness itself is a contingent. So if this substance is ascribed to something that is contingent, then it is contingent. So easy, no problem. So this is what he is saying. وَهُمَا حَادِثًا. Huma goes back into حَرَكَ وَالسُّكُونِ, movement and stillness. وَأَمَّا عَدَمُ الْخُلُوِّ عَنْهُمَا فَلِأَنَّ الْجِسْمَ أَوِ الْجَوْهَرَ لَا يَخْلُو عَنِ السُّكُونِ فِي حَيِّزٍ. لأن الجسم أو الجوهر لا يخلو عن السكون في حيز. So now he mentioned what you call it, why is that so? Because he said that whenever you have a body or a substance or jawhar, the reason why we say it must be either moving or not moving, because it takes up space. Because it takes up any space. So the characteristic of a body, is it takes up space. Since it takes up space, then it must be either moving or not moving. anything any that take up space, this is what it basically is saying, anything any that take up space must either be moving or not moving. But if something any is not in existence, if something is not in existence, let us any imagine something that is not any in existence. So when it is not in existence, and it doesn't take up space, correct? Not in existence. So we do not any ascribe movement or stillness any to it. But if it is any something any that is in existence and it take up space, the nature any of substances, then it must be either any moving any or stillness, and these are characteristics any of contingencies. فإن كان مسبوقا بكون آخر في ذلك الحيز بعينه فهو ساكن. So now he is going to explain the definition any of what is the meaning of stillness. What is the meaning any of stillness? So he said فإن كان مسبوقا بكون آخر في ذلك الحيز بعينه فهو ساكن. So meaning, now we have this substance. So this substance is at this particular place. Clear inshallah? This bottle is at this particular place. So if something is at the same place before and after, before meaning when it comes to time, just before it is in this place, now is it in the same place. This is the meaning of stillness. This is just a definition. This is logical, and it is not something that is difficult. So basically, Imam Taftazani is trying to define what is the meaning of stillness. So it is at a particular place at different times. So meaning, if it is at the same place, meaning it is in stillness. Meaning stillness. But if it is at different place, means any movement. So what is the difference between stillness and movement? Stillness is something that is in a particular place in two timings, before and after. So before it is in this place, after it is in this place. But movement, it is before and is here, after is here. So two places at two times. Before and it was on my before and it was on my right side, then I move it into my left side, for example. So there are two movement in two places. So that is the meaning of movement. So this is basically the difference between stillness and movement. So he said فَإِنْ كَانَ مَسْبُوقًا بِكَوْنِ آخَرْ فِي ذَلِكَ الْحَيِّزِ بِعَيْنِهِ فَهُوَ سَاكِنٌ. That's what I mentioned pertaining to stillness. وَإِنْ لَمْ يَكُنْ مَسْبُوقًا بِكَوْنِ آخَرْ فِي ذَلِكَ الْحَيِّزِ بَلْ فِي حَيِّزٍ آخَرْ فَمُتَحَرِّكٌ. So exactly what I mentioned. If it is at two places, before and after, it is mutaharrik. Mutaharrik is something that is moving. وَهَذَا مَعْنَى قَوْلِهِمْ. And this is the meaning of what the scholars are saying when they say al-harakatu kaunani fi anaini fi makanaini. So you say movement is what you call it, movement is the moving of a particular substance in two places at two times. Fi anaini fi makanaini. Anaini meaning two timing, before, after. Makanain, different places. So when we say what you call it, before it was here, after it was here. So there are two different things. This is the meaning of kaunani fi anaini fi makanain. Wasukunu kaunani fi anaini fi makanin wahid. But stillness, he said, stillness, it is something that stays in a particular place. Fi anaini, what you call it, before and after. Before and after, it is the same place. Fi makanin wahid, but in the same place. So before anain, before it was here, afterwards also it was here. Fi makanin wahid. Makan wahid meaning it is at the same place. But anaini, before and after, it is the same. So mashallah, I don't think what you call it, anybody has any issue understanding this, and this is what you call it, easy to understand. But of course we want to get in the barakah of reading and understanding the words of our Imam, mashallah, al-Imam Taftazani. Taib, we continue, we still have time. So you can read the translation. Now he says earlier, as what we mentioned, as for substances, they are among because they are not free from originated things, and whatever is not free from originated things itself is originated. Then he said the first premise that substances are not free from originated things is so because they are not free of motion and rest which are originated. Meaning, originated here meaning contingencies. I use any the word any contingencies, any a better word. This not any being free of motion and rest is due to the fact that the body and atom are not free from residing within some boundary. The fact that they are within a boundary, a place and space. If the substance and is preceded by another count state of coming into being in that same boundary, then it is at rest and in stillness. And if not, and is so preceded by another count in the very same boundary, then it is motion. This is what they mean by the same motion is to count at 2 times in 2 places, and rest and is to count at 2 times in one yani places. Count any meaning any being, to be any in a particular state. Now when we go back any to the text. So now again the way of Al-Imam Taftazani, this like a Q&A. Now we are coming into the Q&A part. So you say فَإِنْ قِيلَ, if it is said, if someone for example wants to argue by saying يَجُوزُ أَنْ لَا يَكُونَ مَسْبُوقًا بِكَوْنٍ آخَرْ أَصْلًا كَمَا فِي آنِ الْحُدُوثِ فَلَا يَكُونُ مُتَحَرِّكًا كَمَا لَا يَكُونُ سَاكِنًا. So if a person and he say that if a particular substance is not in existence, and before it come into existence, before the existence of this bottle, so there is no such thing as movement and stillness. So that is what you call it. That is correct in a sense that whenever we speak about things that are non-existent, we do not ascribe movement and stillness to them. We do not ascribe any movement and stillness to them. So if a person say this, what you call it, as for the things that are non-existent, we do not ascribe movement and stillness. So Al-Imam Taftazani he say قُلْنَا, he said هَذَا الْمَنْعُ لَا يَضُرُّنَا, he said this there is no issue in this, meaning this is accepted. If you are speaking about non-existent beings, then we got no issue. We do not speak about substances, or we don't speak about accidents, because in itself it is non-existent. It is non-existent. So when something is non-existent, and we do not speak about the substance, or we do not speak about the accident, and we do not speak about movement, we do not speak about stillness, because in itself it is not in existence. وَهَذَا الْمَنْعُ لَا يَضُرُّنَا, he said this does not concern us, and this does not give any harm to us, and in a sense it is something that is accepted by us. فيه من تسليم المدعى على أن الكلام في الأجسام التي تعددت فيه الأكوان وتجددت عليه الأعصار والأزمان أما حدوثهما فلأنها من الأعراض وهي غير باقية. So he is saying that what we are concerned is when it is in existence. So we do not concern whether something that is not in existence. So we do not speak about its contingencies even, because it is not in existence. So we are only concerned about substances and accidents that are in existence. So this is what he is saying. أن الكلام في الأجسام, he said our argument when we speak about bodies or substances التي تعددت فيها الأكوان وتجددت عليه الأعصار, when we speak about the different timings and different beings and different location, he said all these things are pertaining to the things that are in existence. They are things that is in existence. So when they are in existence, say وَأَمَّا حُدُوثُهُمَا فَلِأَنَّهُمَا مِنَ الْأَعْرَاضِ. So when we speak about their movement and their stillness, لِأَنَّهُمَا مِنَ الْأَعْرَاضِ, these are from accidents. وَهِيَ غَيْرُ بَاقِيَةٍ, and accidents are not eternal. Accidents are not eternal. So for example, now this bottle is moving, then it is in stillness. So the movement stops, correct or not? So we say the movement is not eternal. The movement has an end. It has a beginning and it has an end. It accepts existence, it accepts any movement, and it accepts any stillness. So it is غير باقية. It is not eternal. So easily we can determine that it is not something that is eternal. ولأن ماهية الحركة لما فيها من الانتقال من حال إلى الحال تقتضي مسبوقية بالغير والأزلية تنافيها. So he said that لأن ماهية الحركة, the movement, it is from one place to another place. From one state to another state. Taqtadil masbuqiyah. So it means it has a beginning. So before it was not moving, now it's moving. And it moves from one place to another place. So something that has a beginning and changes in its state from non-movement to movement, he said this contradicts with pre-eternality. That it cannot be pre-eternal, it cannot be eternal. And this is easy to understand. That's what I mentioned, examples we gave, correct or not? وَلِأَنَّ كُلَّ حَرَكَةٍ فَهِيَ عَلَى تَقَضِّي وَعَدَمِ الْإِسْتِقْرَارِ. So when it comes to what you call it movement, it is something that is not consistent. Because sometimes it moves, sometimes it does not. It does not move, and it has a beginning to its movement. وَكُلُّ سُكُونٍ فَهُوَ جَائِزُ الزَّوَالِ. And for something that is not moving, also it can accept any movement. So that means it has an ending. It has an endings, meaning it is contingent. So something that can accept movement, something that is in stillness that can accept any movement, meaning it is contingent. So everything that is contingent cannot be eternal. I mean, if it is not eternal, meaning it has an ending. So these are some of the arguments, rational arguments, for us to what you call it, understand and ponder about it. لِأَنَّ كُلَّ جِسْمٍ, and he said, لِأَنَّ كُلَّ جِسْمٍ فَهُوَ قَابِلٌ لِلْحَرَكَةِ بِالضَّرُورَةِ. So every bodies, every substances, jism, it accept movement necessarily. Every bodies or every jism, it accept movement. It accept movement by necessary. وَقَدْ عَرَفْتَ أَنَّ مَا يَجُوزُ عَدَمُهُ يَمْتَنِعُ قِدَمُهُ. And anything that accept non-existence is impossible to be pre-eternal. Something that can accept non-existence cannot be pre-eternal. So anything that accepts non-existence, whether we speak about movement and stillness, if we can accept movement or you accept any stillness, it cannot be pre-eternal. It cannot be ascribed with qadim or qidam. Wallahu alam bis-sawab. And then he goes on to speak about the second premise. Maybe what you call it? I finish the second premise. So the first premise basically he's saying that substances are contingencies. Why any substances contingencies? It accepts any movement and stillness. It accepts any movement and stillness. So anything that accepts any movement and stillness, since it is contingent, this is contingent. So anything that accepts this form of contingencies is contingent in itself. So this is the first premise. The second premise, he say وَأَمَّا الْمُقَدِّمَةُ الثَّانِيَةُ فَلِأَنَّ مَا لَا يَخْلُو عَنِ الْحَوَادِثِ. Anything that what you call it, accept accidents which are contingencies. لو ثبت في الأزل لازم ثبوت الحادث في الأزل. So it is impossible for us to say that if a substance, this I mentioned many times already, if a substance has accidents, and accidents are contingencies, it is impossible that substance is pre-eternal. Because how can something be pre-eternal when its accidents are contingent? So there is a contradiction. So this is what he's saying. لو ثبت في الأزل لازم ثبوت الحادث في الأزل. So if this substance is viewed as azali, meaning pre-eternal, then the accident also must be pre-eternal. But this is mustahil. How can accident be pre-eternal? How can accident be pre-eternal? For example, if a person says that this bottle is pre-eternal, this bottle is pre-eternal. What is meaning in pre-eternal? It has no beginning. It's not created. If someone says this, so now we say that this bottle, which is a substance, it has accidents. As what we mentioned, the color, the height, the width, and movement, stillness, these are accidents. So how can this bottle, which is a substance, is pre-eternal when the accidents any are contingent. So how can a person any say that this bottle is pre-eternal? But the accidents any are confirmed and by necessity and it is what you call it contingencies. So this is any a contradiction. So he say walazimu batil. So this yani what you call it connection yani between substance and an accident, yani to say that they are pre-eternal, it is batil. Yani it is something yani that is wrong. It cannot any be viewed any as pre-eternal. Walazimu batilun wal malzumu misluhu. Likewise, any when we say the accidents any cannot be pre-eternal, the substances also cannot any be pre-eternal, because we cannot separate substances any from accidents. So if accidents are contingent, then substance any is contingent. So we cannot be saying that substance any is pre-eternal, but the accidents are contingent. So this is any the contradiction. So both the accidents and the substance are contingencies, and they are not pre-eternal. Because any to say that one of it any is pre-eternal, the other one is contingent, you say wahwa muhal. This is any impossible. Because why? Because any there is any a contradiction. So this is basically the second any premise as what any he mentioned, and then after that yani he gave any some more examples. So inshallah ta'ala we will stop here and we will continue in our next lesson next week inshallah ta'ala. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى سيدنا محمد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين.